Oh yeah, that's right.
So I'm
Oh, well, well, well.
I am streaming. We're on the podcast. We're streaming live. We have
Oh,
YouTube's is
uh,
running and
go.
gunning. Great. Great, 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 great. I'm sharing everything now. It'll take a second for. Oh yeah, YouTube's popped up. Perfect. Time spent poorly. This it looks a lot. Once you see it, you'll see it looks a lot better. By the way, just the stream in general. Cool.
Okay, the YouTube. The motherfucking YouTube.
Are you sharing to Facebook?
From YouTube?
Yes.
That's what I'm doing right now.
Okay, I'll hit the Twitter.
It's weird that it's not like under my channels, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Since it should be, because you guys like added me to it or whatever.
Yes. Okay, I just shared it to Twitter, and then I'll go on Facebook and I'll help share this sucker. And then I'll trim this beginning part off of the YouTube when it's done. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Come on, baby.
Did I freeze again?
Yes, but I'm gonna fix it.
Okay. I think it's just because I'm doing stuff on my phone.
Now you're back. I literally just reopen up the Skype thing and then it works. Like I mean, I just refresh your window, and then it pulls you up again. This is what one day, Zach. One day, we are going to find somebody to do this for us. That's how we'll know we have made it. Is that we'll have a public relations person who posts all of this stuff. That's my goal in life.
I don't know what my phone just did, but I really don't like it. This is frustrating. Well, hold on. That's fine. I can do it from here. We're doing it live.
We're doing it live. Nope, cancel.
And if we're having a fancy, nice new phone, it can be a real bitch sometimes. What the heck?
Okay, I shared it to time spent poorly into my personal stuff. Are you doing it for sports program, or do you need me to do it?
You should do it for a sports program real fast just because I'm definitely lagging right now.
I'm fine with that. We're good. We're good.
Oh god, now it's playing through my ear. You can't hear that, can you?
No.
Cool. I try to forget I'm wearing headphones.
All right, Oh, post failed. F you, buddy.
Yeah, screw you, pal.
I'm not your friend, guy.
I'm not your buddy, guy.
You tell me it failed. There you go. We're on everything now. Hooray! Let's start some music.
Hit me with it.
Hit me with
Hit
it.
me with it, brother.
Make sure you can hear the music. It's going to change your sound a little bit because it's going to come from my microphone instead, so you can hear the music. Does it sound different?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's because because I want you to be able to hear the music. Boom!
What's it coming from now? What's the sound coming from now?
The sound's coming from the actual computer now.
Oh, what's weird? It weirdly sounds clearer.
Well, yeah, it's because it's you're hearing my mic and then everything. Hey, everybody, welcome to the program, Saturday Show. Wow. We are live at like noonish, noon 34. And we're going to talk some football today. And Zach's not frozen because I think I figured out how to make that work. That might have been a user error, my friend. User error.
If it's not a user error, it's at least correctable by the user, which is awesome.
That is nice. And what do you think of the feed look? Do you like that a little more? It looks a little clearer, less busy, less icons.
Yeah, hold up. I actually don't have it open currently, so I can't tell you. But
okay.
I basically shared it and closed it. That way the internet was coming in crystal clear.
Oh, okay.
It looks good. I'm checking it out right now.
Yeah, I think this is the most I've liked it because it actually looks it looks like a real show, and I had too many icons up before. That was what the problem was. It just looked so busy.
If you're listening in the future on Spotify, just know that it looks fantastic right now.
Yes, please notice that. Notice how great we are, and how good we are at everything we do.
Yeah, if you can't see us, if you only listen and don't watch, we both look great. Very, very good looking. I'd paint you a picture of how good looking we are if you've never seen us before, but I'm not going to do that.
I did add one more little icon. Just our beautiful faces. Because it still looks fine. Yeah, that looks good. Oh, yeah. Oh, my Lanta. That looks good. Oh, man. Oh, hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm going to leave that in the podcast. So, hey, it's that time again. It is time for football weekend. We had wild card weekend last weekend. I'm saying weekend too many times.
Yeah, you are.
But a lot of weekend going on here. But I am really excited about the games for today, and I'm really excited about having this show again, because I always love having a good show. You can't really see what's on the TV behind me here, but it's actually just the same screen. Just the same screen. It's my computer screen. But you know how it is. But hey, thanks for everybody who tunes into the show. I've seen a little bit of a spike on some of our social media. I've seen a spike on our listens for the show, and I've seen a spike on some of the subscribers we've gotten on YouTube. We are almost to 100. I know that seems like just nothing. That's just small guys, but I think we started off at like 70 a couple weeks ago, and some of that is the help of the other shows that are on the Time Spent Poorly network, including Basement Boys 2, soon to be the Time Spent Poorly podcast, as well as Friendish with Caitlin and Bree, and I believe even Andy King is going to be starting a YouTube show to go with us, and of course my Let's Play or my gameplay show called Oh Good Gameplay. So thank you to everybody who has jumped ship from the Facebook and is now on YouTube with us to, have this show a rolling, because I think it's really starting to help. So, Zachariah, how are you, my friend?
Oh, I'm great. I'm a little hopped up on the caffeine right now, but that should just lead to a great show.
Are you jacked up on Mountain Dew?
I'm all hopped up on Mountain Dew.
Did you watch any good games this week?
Yeah. So that Oklahoma City San Antonio game that went into double overtime, the highest scoring game, I believe, in over a decade in the NBA. I think it was like the highest since like 2006 or something. That was insane. It was a big moment for a lot of teams, or a lot of people on both teams. Russell Westbrook had yet another triple-double, but I believe he had the most assists ever in a triple-double. It was in the upper 20s, which was insane to watch. He's not shooting very well this year, but he's doing a great job of like making the whole rest of that team better. Paul George is definitely the guy on that team, and he kept him in it all the way till the end. San Antonio started the game 14 for 14 from three, which I've never seen before, and I don't think has ever happened before. They shoot the least amount of threes in the NBA, but they make the most percentage-wise. They shoot the least amount of free throws, and now I believe after that game again, they're back on top for the most free throw or highest free throw percentage. So they're an extremely efficient team. It was a great game to watch. Watching a game where a team starts 14 for 14 from three and LaMarcus Aldridge had the game that he had, you would think they would have blown him out, but Oklahoma City took it all the way to double overtime. It was insane. There were some really weird calls that made the game last even longer. But for me, it was probably one of my favorite games to watch in a regular season game to watch in years. And that's not even just because I'm a Spurs fan. I mean, it was on TNT, which both teams, I think, really got showcased in that. And I mean, luckily my team came out on top, but yeah, it was one of those games where you almost just wanted it to end because you have to work the next day, and it was still going on at like 10:30. But I'm glad I stayed up. It was an awesome game. LaMarcus Aldridge finished with a career high in points. He finally joined the 50-point club, which is so cool to see from a dude who did not shoot a single three-point shot in today's NBA, you know?
Right. Well, and I watched. I didn't get to watch it, but I watched the highlights from Portland and Charlotte, the Hornets.
Right.
And the Hornets, who are, by the way, not, they're in the 8th seed right now in the East, and Portland ran a clinic on that team. Looked really good.
Yeah, Charlotte can have some good games, and then they can have some real duds. I think that's just what happens in the East. But they're actually a lot of fun to watch with Kemba Walker, and every year that I watch them, I'm just like, man, if they could just try to build around him at all, that'd be fantastic. But they seem to not do it. Yeah, CJ McCollum had a great game against Charlotte. That same night, a really awesome game to watch was the Mavericks versus the Timberwolves. Luka carried his team again. I think he had like 29 points, which I think the game before he had over 30. He already has 4 games of 30 points in his rookie year, and I don't know many other people at his age that have done that. I actually meant to check before the show started today to see how many people actually were on the same pace as a rookie. And if there are any, I don't imagine they're as young as he was, because, I mean, he is, a 19, 20-year-old rookie. So,
yeah, I also while we're on the subject in general, I also am pretty stoked about in general about how well Portland has been playing even over the last 10 games. They shot right up in the seed again. It's just one of those, they're just on a really hot run right now, which is great. Again, just that game of runs.
Yeah, I diss the Celtics a lot, but they've really been getting their stuff together, or so I thought. And then they go and play the Heat a couple nights ago, and the Heat just dismantled them at home. I don't know I do know what's going on with that team. Because of the people that they want to start and the minutes they want to play them, they are missing out on people like Terry Rozier, who's a great player, not getting the minutes he deserves. I don't think Hayward deserves, honestly, any minutes. I don't think he belongs on the team. He's getting in the way of Jaylen Brown, who, in my opinion, is a much better player right now. That team's a mess, but I mean they're starting to get some wins, and if they keep on this pace, I think they'll figure it out. I mean, they got a good coach. So Utah is another team. They're back above 500. They might have had some easy games to get there, but they're taking care of the games they're supposed to win, and I think they'll make it interesting. I still don't see them being a playoff team, but I think they will make it interesting in the West. Like, there's going to be a really good team who doesn't get in the West this year. There might be two.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's been really interesting to watch. It's good to see Utah making a comeback, considering how slow they started out. But I think I absolutely agree with you. I think New Orleans is still something to watch out for, and then Sacramento, and then of course LA is gonna get LeBron back.
Oh man, maybe that's been really frustrating. I bet for them. I mean, there's two different occasions where he was supposed to be back, and then they just keep delaying that injury. So now it's another 3 games, they said. When they don't have LeBron James, they literally look like one of the worst teams in the NBA.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad. Like, I mean, the Jazz made them look pretty awful last night. And that game they won against the Pistons, Kyle Kuzma had to play probably one of the best games of his young career for them to get that win. And yeah, I mean the T-Wolves loss was bad. They lost to the Knicks since LeBron's been out.
Yeah,
I don't know. He needs to come back sooner than later, and he will. But because of him being gone, it's actually let some people like Utah, because that's who they played last night, get back in the race just because of that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's if you could just sit it out a little longer, LeBron, let's see who else we can get in the mix.
Right, no kidding. I mean, I don't know what their upcoming schedule is, but actually, I might as well just open it. So they have the Cavaliers next, which is probably pretty nice. I'm sure that they had that because that's an NBA TV game. I'm sure they had that on NBA TV because they were planning on LeBron playing the Cavs. So I don't know if anyone's going to watch that game now, but that's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know at all. I don't know if anybody cares enough to watch that.
Yeah, basically Kyle Kuzma take on the Jazz or take on the Cavs. I guess if you were a diehard Lakers fan, I'm sure you'll still watch that game.
I did start kind of watching. I've started paying attention to the standings in hockey again too, and I thought it was interesting about the whole game of runs thing from NBA. Well, you can do a game of runs too for hockey, but in the negative sense too. So the last 10 games that Anaheim, my Ducks, have played, they have lost.
Yeah.
They're on a 10-game losing streak.
Wow. Yeah, that's well. I'm a Penguins fan, and they've been extremely hot since they got their goaltender back. And they play the Kings tonight, who are surprisingly having. I didn't expect them to be as bad as they are this year, but you're right. I mean, the Ducks are definitely a surprise on teams that you wouldn't have expected to be playing like this at this point in the season.
Right.
And as far as a game of runs goes, I think in any sport where the season's as long as these are, you're gonna have that. So the games I'm interested in today, actually, there's the Washington game that's on. It's actually on ESPN Plus. That's what I just got ESPN Plus a month ago, and it's so nice to be able to watch 2 or 3 hockey games in a day. And then the Golden Knights are on later tonight on there, and they're looking just as good as they did last year, which is I think some people might have been wondering if they were a one-hit wonder. I don't think that really happens in hockey, but they're playing the Blackhawks, who are another team that I can't believe they're not playing as good as they should be. So, yeah, Capitals, Blue Jackets will be good, and Golden Knights, Blackhawks should be pretty decent just because it's in Chicago.
Yeah, I think so too. I noticed that you froze for a second, and then I did my fix. I think I figured it out. I'm really starting to come into my own as this host, I think. after a year and a year and then some.
And then, who's another team that I really did not – it could just be because I wasn't paying attention the first month of the season, but I did not expect Calgary to be this good.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They are absolutely killing it. Penguins, I expected to be a top 10 team. Golden Knights, top 10. I watched Winnipeg play a little bit last night. And then obviously Nashville and Tampa. But, yeah, I mean, Calgary has really impressed me. The Sharks just keep getting better. So,
right.
Yeah, I mean, this will get interesting. And once football season ends, that's when, I'm sure you're like me, hockey and basketball season's just full gear now.
Yeah, same here. I'm really, I'm really waiting. Of course, we're going to be coming up on February as well, so I'll be paying more attention to college basketball. Although I have paid more attention to college basketball this year than I did last year, and I think that's just some of the boil over from my getting into the NBA as well. I think I've just, if a game's on for college basketball, I'll watch it. I was watching some this morning. Couple games on. I think North Carolina was playing.
Yeah, and like now we're starting to get all the really interesting debates because, and we're going to get this between whatever teams are near the top and Duke all season, but now we're getting the debate between who's better between Michigan and Duke, which I heard on a few different networks this week. And yeah, I think it's always going to be what team in Duke. At the beginning of the year, after that Gonzaga loss, it was like, is Gonzaga better than Duke? And now is Michigan better than Duke?
Right.
And it's just going to keep happening. I will say that personally, if they played today, I would definitely take Michigan over Duke. And I don't know if I could say the same once tournament time comes. That's for sure. Right now, though, currently as we speak, Duke is in a absolute barn burner with Florida State down in Tallahassee. That game is 66-65 right now.
Oh, wow.
And Florida State over the last couple of years, this is not just a football school anymore. They get really long recruits, like almost at every position. I remember like a couple of years ago, even like their small forward and shooting guard, like their wings were a couple of guys with almost 7 foot or 7 foot wingspan. So I think if you're long and you play with 40 minutes of like really hard energy, I'd almost take that over like pure athleticism. And I think they're proving that against Duke today. I was even saying that that was an exact comment from me last night when me and my buddy were talking sports. And I said, I would almost like, as far as like this time of the year goes, I'd take a team like Florida State over Duke. Same with Michigan because they just play so hard. You know what I mean? Like every guy on the court is playing hard and they're long and they can defend. So.
Hey, I don't know if you noticed on our Instagram account, I stayed true to your method of finding the worst picture of all 4 quarterbacks, or of all 8 quarterbacks.
I did notice that. I commented on the page. I thought it would have been really funny if you just like posted pictures of not even them, just like celebrities that look like them.
I did think about doing that.
Yeah, like Nick Foles as Napoleon Dynamite. That's just spot on.
I thought about doing. When I went and Googled pictures of Nick Foles, a bunch of Napoleon Dynamite ones came up, and I was like, man, I should just do that with every single one of them. Like every single, like Andrew Luck, get like a picture of like a neck beard, even though I like Andrew Luck.
Yeah, you could just do a picture of Abe Lincoln instead.
Yeah, Abe Lincoln.
And then the Ryan Gosling thing is just uncanny.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not even an insult. I mean, that's a huge compliment.
For Goff?
Yeah, that's a huge compliment for Goff. Like, people have been comparing the two for years now, and I'm like, well, let the dude turn into an adult first.
I do love that. I was watching something earlier today about Goff's, like his play, like what he yells. You remember like Manning used to be really infamous for like the Omaha, but
yeah,
then,
his cadence, yeah.
Yeah, but Goff's cadence is really funny. Like to some of the stuff it's like Obama.
Yeah.
Halle Berry.
No, he seems like a pretty awesome dude. I watched some interviews with him before the season started, and I don't dislike the guy.
No,
I thought that I would, but I don't. Jeez, man, this Duke game. I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted.
Yeah, I was kind of tuning in on that as well. I have the YouTube TV app up as well, which, by the way, it's working. By the way, everything is working fine.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I have your Skype screen on the side, like, so it's just up. And I think what happens is it gets like buried, and then somehow it just quits streaming you. So
yeah.
So
oh yeah. By the way, you were talking about that North Carolina game earlier. Louisville dismantled them by 21 points. Louisville's not even ranked right now, but I mean they're going to be in come tournament time for sure.
Yeah.
There was a couple other good games. The NC State Pitt game looked like it was pretty good, and then right now, once again, Florida State Duke looks awesome, but also we have a very close. There's nothing better than regular season Big 12 basketball, in my opinion. that TCU Oklahoma game, 67-65 right now with 3 minutes to go.
Right.
There's just something about Big 12 teams, man. Every game's close. They just go in there and beat up on each other, and then a bunch of them make the tournament, and then usually they're all just too beat up by the time the tournament starts to make any noise. But
Right.
still, and Texas is coming back on Texas Tech right now, so with 46 seconds to go, which you best believe I am paying attention to. They've been kind of a letdown for me this year. Really, since Shaka Smart came to that school, I know a lot of people thought him leaving Wichita State would be huge for Texas, and he's been able to recruit, but he has not been able to win big games at all since he came there.
Oh, what did I do here? There we go. Fixed it.
I don't know
Fixed
what
it.
you did, bud.
I fixed it. I just messed up. I messed up temporarily. I messed up. It's a learning curve. It's a learning curve. But yeah, I've been really enjoying a lot of the college basketball games in general, just because of the I think they're doing a really good job on like marketing the story to go with these games, and of course I am a story guy.
Yeah, you're all about that story.
I think, I actually heard it explained really well by another show, and it's like maybe I'm a story guy because of having this show now too. Because we have this show, and like what's better for a radio show than to have like a good story.
Yeah, I agree, but I think that the media has always been good at creating the story.
Yeah. No, yeah, for sure. I just feel like, okay, no, so what it is I'm paying more attention. That's actually what it is.
Yeah, so I mean, like, it's always, in a way, it's always been about the story. Like, I always tell people this: when you trace back who your favorite team is or who your favorite athletes are, even especially from when you were a kid, and you might not even really remember it, but you might have been like watching like a game on Fox and then watching the pregame show, and they probably did some like piece, like especially before the Super Bowl, they got you like really, really just excited about a player, and like you get older and you completely forgot you even watched that, and you're like, I just really like this guy. For me, I think it was like the 1998 Super Bowl. It was like the first one that I ever watched with my dad, and I watched. It was the Packers were in it, and they did like something on Brett Favre before the Super Bowl started, and I'm like, this guy is awesome. And then the whole rest of his career, I was like diehard, gotta watch Brett Favre play like the whole rest of the time. Like probably like subconsciously didn't even realize it.
Yeah, yeah. Agreed.
But like, yeah, I mean, so I think it is story driven. It's the same reason like when athletes do something really crappy or stupid, like Kareem Hunt, like something really awful happens, you're just like totally in like shock and awe because you're like, oh, I thought I knew this person because I watched this 1 or 15-minute story on them,
Yeah.
And they seem like such a great deal. It's like they're just people, so that who knows. But yeah, I think as far as like storylines go, though, this year has just been full of really good ones.
Yeah, I mean, if we talked about a lot of the ones for football last weekend, just some of the cool, a lot of the young versus new kind of thing, and which we saw some of those play out. Really for young, I mean, pretty much what's left is Goff and Goff and Mahomes, and I guess still
And
Dak. But really, you really have more of the vets left now.
Well, I mean, actually, it's 50-50, really.
It? Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, because Nick Foles.
Yeah. I mean, Nick Foles is a veteran for sure.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean, though. It's 50-50 in the sense that half of them are in the middle, or, a chunk of them are in the middle, a chunk of them are the young guys, and then you have the Phillip Rivers and the Tom Brady and the Drew Brees. So 3 really young guys, 3 really old guys, and then 2 guys like Luck and Foles who are really, I mean, I would say for Luck, this is like the prime of his career, which who would have thought coming off of that shoulder surgery that the prime of his career would happen after that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it just shows what an offensive and defensive line can do for your team. But no, all around, I would say all around sports in general right now, we have some absolutely like amazing stories. Like obviously we'll get deeper into the college ones as the season goes along. But I mean, come tournament time, the Duke team is going to be awesome. But I think what we're also going to find is Duke's going to have to go against some like smaller, less known, scrappier teams, and then we're going to get some really cool like David versus Goliath type situations come that time period. We're also going to have the storylines if it really does come down to them in Michigan, like what's the better way to have a winning team, or even North Carolina Duke this year, same idea. What's the better method for having a winning team? Do you want a bunch of seniors out there, or do you want like 3 freshmen who are ready for the NBA? Right. I like that concept. I like the idea of that matchup. And then, man, the NBA is chocked full of them right now, especially because the Warriors have slid a little bit. Like, that'll just create the storyline of, are they as good as last year? Are they the same like powerhouse that they were before? If not, who can contest? Is this finally like the year that an Eastern Conference team actually, competes for a championship?
Right.
And then obviously there's still to me, one of my favorite storylines, and I'm obviously biased on both sides of this, it's like, man, how well has Kawhi fit in Toronto and DeRozan fit in San Antonio?
Right. Absolutely.
Like the storyline in general of just what Coach Popovich has done with 8 new players on the San Antonio roster, 8 new people for a guy who has always had a system and used the older guys to teach the younger guys like the way. Like, he doesn't have that anymore. And it's still working. I mean, it really just shows that, man, he really is maybe the greatest coach of all time. He just he passed, was it Jerry Sloan for third all time the other day as far as coaching wins go. So,
no, he's absolutely incredible. And it's just amazing to me. I still find it kind of funny that people were worried about bringing DeRozan in, and I mean, realistically, it improved the team in the aspect that last year they had Kawhi for 9 games.
Right.
And they still made it into the playoffs. They basically added somebody to the roster who is really good, who plays. He plays in the games now. That's pretty huge. Yeah. And he fits in really well with with their scheme. He's not, I would say DeMar DeRozan is not like a big diva. He's just a good, solid basketball player, and that's kind of, to me, what San Antonio's always been.
Right.
It's just a team of like good, solid basketball players. You don't have Carmelo Anthony's there. You don't have, you don't get LeBrons in San Antonio, although that would be fine.
Oh God, I mean, I've always said, because me and him and Coach Pop get along so well, and him and DeJounte are obviously super close. Yeah, that'd be awesome. But I'm glad that we've never had to see what Coach Pop trying to coach LeBron would be like. I feel like that's just way too big of like egos going against each other right there.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, yeah, what coach could actually Coach Popovich is the only coach in the world that could yell at LeBron James and get away with it. And that or maybe not. So I don't want to even find that out.
I don't want to know that.
No, so that's another thing about the Spurs. I mean, people who don't watch them regularly don't realize that this year, who knows if DeRozan or LaMarcus Aldridge would even be their best player, because the entire offense was built around DeJounte Murray, who's out the entire season. This was supposed to be his year to take the team over. And we don't even have the opportunity to see what that team really is supposed to look like with the pieces that it has. So, DeRozan didn't think he was going to come in there and be treated like a point guard. He's never been a point guard. He's always been a 2 guard. He's always been a wing. And they're basically saying, hey, DeJounte's out. Guess what? You're going to be the point guard, basically. And he's career high in assists, career high in rebounds, and he also leads the team in scoring. It's pretty phenomenal. And it's almost a bummer because him and LaMarcus are both all-stars. They've both been all-stars their whole career. And I feel like one of them is going to get screwed out, come All-Star voting because 2 Spurs aren't going to make the All-Star team.
Oh, yeah, right.
If they had a better record, say they were like second or third in the West, they would. It'll be interesting, and I think you might agree because it's like, who can people really name besides for Murray and Jokic on the Nuggets? But they're first place in the West, so they have to get a few guys in, right?
Yeah, you would think, yeah.
But it's like, do I even know a third guy to put in on the team?
Yeah.
I mean, I would say that Jokic, because he's currently an MVP candidate, you got to have him in. And then Murray, he's just, I mean, best season of his young career so far. But this is a team that has like 6 major injuries this season to people. Like, we haven't even seen Isaiah Thomas yet this year, and people forget he even plays for the Nuggets.
Right.
Because he hasn't played a game yet. Paul Millsap's been out pretty much the whole year, and then he comes back and he gets hurt. Yeah. So also that just shows how crazy good that team is because they are still first place in the West
right.
with all of the major pieces they've had out all season.
Yeah, that team was definitely a bit of a sleeper for me. I mean, I didn't think they would be as dominant as what they've been.
So I knew they would be a playoff team because they've gotten better every year with these young players, which is cool. But it all boils down to the fact that they're 17-3 at home. So
right.
They're going to be scary in the playoffs if they can keep home court advantage. I think that's really what it boils down to. Are they able to hold on to the 1 or the 2 seed to lock up a couple of first round or first and second round home field advantage? Because, some people talk about the whole altitude thing, getting used to running at altitude. It really tires some people out. I am a true believer in that now after watching Denver Nugget games. Like, these young players can really handle the altitude, and, I think when an away team comes in there, they're exhausted by the fourth quarter.
Yep, I agree. Oh, I mean, it's the same. It's the same aspect in the NFL too. I mean, you watch teams play at Mile High, and it's definitely tougher. Oh, I think when they've had the big games in Denver, usually the opposing team shows up a few days early just to try to acclimate to that weather.
Well, and then who was it? Clark for the Steelers couldn't even play in Colorado because
right.
I can't remember what it was about him, but it's like the same thing. Like, it's to the point where the altitude affects someone so much they can't even go there.
Right.
So,
right.
It's definitely an advantage. Another thing people really don't talk about, unless you watch it a lot, is for UFC fighters. I mean, there's the ones that actually train out of Colorado, and then there happens to be a fight night in Colorado. I mean, that's got to be such an advantage.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's like not to get completely nerdy here, but it's a little bit like Dragon Ball Z. You send Goku in that chamber, to go train, and then he comes out even stronger. And this is a very nerdy, and I'm dating myself.
It is dating yourself. I remember watching those episodes when I was 9, and the worst part of those episodes was that they went forever. There were so many episodes where just get to Namek already, goddammit.
I know. And then that whole episode would just be trembling and sweating, basically.
Yeah, and then he finally got to Namek, and they're like, Goku's finally on Namek.
Yeah. You haven't seen me in my final form. Like, oh shit.
Yeah, you haven't seen me when my hair turns blonde, and then when it turns blonde, the next time it turns longer, and then when it's longer, the next time it actually is blue now.
Yeah, I did see that picture. I actually thought that was a fan picture, like a fan-made thing for Dragon Ball. Like, oh, it'd be cool if they had blue hair. And then I saw.
No, it's from Dragon Ball Super.
Yeah,
it's
the new season. Yeah, I had no idea. I just thought, if you Google Dragon Ball Z pictures, you can see a million just fan-made pictures.
Oh yeah.
Which, by the way, in junior high, I was very guilty of that. I drew Dragon Ball Z all the time.
Have you watched any of it since it came back?
I have not, but I have wanted to. It hasn't been due to any reason. I just haven't yet.
Yeah, it's worth watching. Like all other seasons, there's already way too many episodes to get caught up in a day or two, which is nuts. But
I did before we get back on because our first game is going to start pretty soon here, so we'll probably want to get wrapped up
Yep.
on this. I will say that I did watch Dragon Ball Z Abridged a couple years ago, where they took basically all of the episodes of Dragon Ball Z and got rid of like the like the narration like at the end and beginning of the episode, and then they just kind of cut out a bunch of like just nonsense. And
I think you can watch that on YouTube.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, that is a great show with all the nonsense.
Well, so this is what I would recommend personally. If you want to watch the new season, just skip it and then watch the movie that came out before it, because it's the exact same thing pretty much.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so it just condenses it down into a movie. So you're like, oh, cool, I saved like 100 episodes.
Nice. You've tuned into the Dragon Ball Z portion of Sports Program with Derek and Zach. You see, there are people who don't watch the show, but they like us, but they don't watch the show because they don't like sports. And I tell them, I'm like, you should just watch it because we talk sports, but we also talk about Dragon Ball Z, and that's a huge draw.
Oh, if I did an entire Dragon Ball Z show, I'm pretty sure I'd have at least 30 people I know personally that would watch every week, but
I would agree. No, but what was the original conversation? Is like, should we do a sports show or should we do like a geek culture show? And I remember it being a pretty tough draw.
Yeah, yeah, we were right down to it. By the way, for people who don't know, I will have my own show soon, so they'll probably get a little nerd talk on there from time to time.
Very exciting to have that. And that will be available on YouTube as well. And
yes,
that will
YouTube
be available on Spotify and on timesforpoorly.fun. TSPN, baby. So let's get this going. Let's start the tunes. Let's pump up the volume.
Hit me with it.
All right. It is that time of the week where we give our picks. No pick 'em, nothing like that. Except for Zach is doing you're doing an NFL playoffs thing on the
NFL playoff challenge. We do
Yeah.
it every year. I think I've only won it once.
So we got some good games today, and so last week we did our picks on Wednesday, and then we did our Saturday picks on Wednesday, and then we did our Sunday picks on the Saturday show, and we decided it would be a little more fun to do all of our picks on today's show since there's 4 games. That, and I just really like doing picks on this show. This is to be completely honest, this is my favorite of the 2 shows that we do a week.
Oh, I agree.
Far and wide, I like the Saturday show more. No offense to our KLCZ show, but it's just, this one's at our own pace, at our own leisure, and we talk about Dragon Ball Z, So the first game today is at 1:35. That is coming up soon. And this is going to be this has every potential to be game of the week. Every potential. And I mean that wholeheartedly. We're going to have the Indianapolis Colts going to Arrowhead to play the Chiefs. And, boy, this was actually a really hard game for me to pick. But ultimately, so I've been picking on Kansas City's defense pretty much the entire year because I still feel like they win games in spite of the defense. But you do have a good perspective on it. Is like if they're down by 3 points or a touchdown and they can get the ball to Mahomes in the last 2 minutes, then I am going to agree with you that the defense has done their job. They played good defense that day. But going into this game, I feel like the Colts are just too hot right now. Andrew Luck
Hansel's so hot right now.
Yeah. Andy's playing lights out quarterbacking. They have a really great running game. And then, of course, they keep going to T.Y. Hilton, who's just making big plays when they need to make. And you would be remiss to talk about Indianapolis if you do not mention that offensive line, which has
and defensive line.
Those lines, man. that offensive line gives. I feel like he has all day. The only other offensive line I've seen during the season that had that same thing was Pittsburgh.
Right.
Is they just,
oh my gosh, yeah.
They just gave those quarterbacks all day to throw that ball. I think I'm going to go with the Colts in this game.
Yeah, they are the hottest team in the playoffs. I definitely agree. This is going to be a bad weather game.
Yep, I saw a preview for it. Is snow all over the field.
Yes. So I will always be the first person to say a bad weather game always goes to the team with better line play because you're going to be running the ball a lot.
Right.
And Marlon Mack and that offensive line are really clicking.
Right.
The thing is that Kansas City, though, I would say that this even intensifies their home field advantage. Not only is the crowd going to make it really, really hard on Andrew Luck, but I would also say that they've been practicing in this all week to get ready.
Right.
They are prepared for this weather. I would say they're more prepared than a dome team in Indianapolis. Although in Indianapolis, I'm sure they could just go outside and they'd find the same type of weather. But yeah, I think that benefits the Chiefs. I think this is not too big of a moment for Pat Mahomes. There's been no moment this year that has been. If anything, the big games are where he tends to step up. Where they need to be weary is the same reason the Rams were weary last year when they played the Falcons, is that bye week just, they lost a little bit with the time off, but I don't think that's going to be a huge issue. It's weird, but I like Mahomes over Luck this week.
Okay.
I mean, Luck's having a great year, but Pat Mahomes is probably the MVP of the league. And I think he's going to win it at the end, by the way. I think it'll be close, and I think Pat Mahomes is going to – if there's anyone that can handle a football in the snow, it's Pat Mahomes.
I like the pick, man. I could have gone either way really on this one. But
also, let's get Andy Reid a home win. Finally.
Yeah, one home
He's
win
due.
at least, yeah.
How many times this year have I said this person is like they're just due? They're going to win because they're due.
Yeah, could be. Could be. And that's why I think the Chargers this year, but
right. They're due.
So the Cowboys are going to LA to face the Rams, their actual home team. So I think I like this game, actually. I really do. I think Dallas has a lot to prove, and so do the Rams. And I think that's one of the things I'm kind of excited about, is that both of these teams have so much to prove to each other, or to the world, I guess. So I was kind of looking at it, though, and for me it's going to come down to Zeke or Gurley. And I don't think Dak Prescott is an amazing quarterback. I think he's good enough to get a job done. And I think in a game like this is where they would strive. They played that tough game against Seattle. And in this game, let's also keep in mind that the Rams have slumped a little in the last games. They've rested a bunch of players now. I sometimes like wild card teams more, just because they've been playing and they're ready. They're warmed up. This was a tough game for me, but because it is a home game for the Rams, my gut is telling me to take LA at home. I just think between what it came down to me is you have all those weapons on the field. You have all that stuff. I mean, Dallas has Amari Cooper. I mean, I know there's a lot going against LA here. What it comes down to me is quarterback play and coach play. And I just think that Sean McVay is a better coach than Garrett.
I completely agree with that statement for sure. I think Garrett does a lot of things that honestly lose the game for his team. I'd say just as much as he's done to help the team win, he's done equally as much to have losses on his shoulders.
Right.
And the Rams have really pulled ahead as being a heavy favorite too. I believe it's somewhere between 7 and 7.5. I am not ever one. I think most people who pay attention to the show all season, besides for a few teams, I'm not really one to pick against a team that's anywhere over 5 as far as like a -5. So them being a -7 makes me really believe in the Rams. Not only that, but I think all the talk these last couple weeks about them slumping and them not being the team that their record reflects, I'm sure has really motivated them.
Yeah.
And I think they could come out here and play great. I also do like Goff more than Dak Prescott, as much as I don't really love either of them.
Right.
But you said something about him just being tough. He is gritty. I think last week he showed he's a gamer. The last week of the season, they sat Ezekiel Elliott and then played him still, and he just absolutely went off.
Right.
I'm worried that Cole Beasley and obviously the rest of the wide receiving core is too banged up. That's my one concern for Dallas. But I think that Dallas can do to the Rams what they did to the Saints when they played the Saints.
Right.
I think they can shut the running game down, which is all they really need to do, force Goff to beat them, which I don't like their receiving core without Cooper Kupp. I think that's going to finally show today, and I think we'll probably hear the commentators mention it multiple times, that they're not the same receiving core without Cooper Kupp. Also, Gurley, I think, barely made this game. Like I think he's still pretty banged up.
Yeah.
I like Dallas to go in here and steal a win. And I don't really pick against spreads this big, like I said, but the only times I've done it this season are pretty much for Dallas.
Yeah, I also will throw in there that just with Van Der Esch and the rest of that Dallas defense, I mean that's a really good core group of guys. That's a tough team to beat. I'm going to stick with the Rams at home because of coaching, but I like your pick on this one.
Yeah, if there's one, there was a lot of good defenses coming into this playoffs, right? Ravens, but they're gone. Bears, but they're gone. Right now, it's between the Cowboys and the Chargers for the defense I like the most left in the playoffs. With the Saints as a pretty close third, because that's another great defense.
Right. So, Sunday, we have the Chargers going to New England at 10 o'clock in the morning to play the Patriots. That is, of course, a little later over there. But I like this game. I really do. You can never rule the Patriots out. We all know that. We all know you can never rule the Patriots out. This is why I will lean towards the Chargers hard, though, on this game. The Patriots usually play the Ravens or the Steelers, or they play the Jaguars, or they play other teams to get into that AFC championship game where they also play like the Ravens or the Steelers or the Jaguars. This is something truly wonderfully different, is that we're going to see the Chargers play the Patriots. Now, I think it's going to come down to the defenses. The Chargers are showing that they are not afraid to take risks on defense. They did against Baltimore, and they looked awesome. That was a completely different defensive scheme that they went with, and I loved it. I love that they are willing to take the risk to go, to make the adjustments to face Baltimore. I am 100% taking the Chargers in this game. I think if anyone can knock the Patriots out of the running, it's going to be the Chargers. And also, I'll also point out that I did take the Chargers to go to the Super Bowl. I have a bias. I want Uncle Phil to get one. I'm rooting for them actively. Also, I'm rooting against the Patriots because, I'm tired of the story. But realistically, you just can't rule them out, right? But Chargers, who I'm taking.
So the Chargers they are not the favorite in this game. They have moved a little bit closer. I believe they're still at like a +4. I look at these things because of this team in particular, because of this. The Chargers have only been the underdog a few times this year, last week included against Baltimore, which is surprising to me. But every time they have been the underdog this season, they have been very impressive. They've won every game.
Right.
I like them when they're the underdog. I like them when they're on the road. They just seem like a team that's completely ready for it. And you said it a couple times this year. It's because they really don't have a home anymore.
Right.
So
I was just going to say, I heard some noise this week on the radio about how They don't like them going back east 2 times to win on the road in the playoffs. And I'm looking here and I'm seeing they went 12-4 in the regular season. To me, that's 12 road games, baby. They're the best road team.
Yeah, and I would say that their more impressive wins in the regular season were on the west side of the country, obviously, where they went to Mile High, dismantled Denver. They beat Seattle in Seattle.
Had a
and they
huge
destroyed
comeback.
Oakland in Oakland.
Had a huge comeback win against Pittsburgh at Heinz Field.
But they did have that one. But that was more of like a close game. I'm saying they're like big blowout wins on the road were on this side of the country.
That's true.
And then obviously they went to Tennessee and got destroyed.
Right.
But so yeah, it's their road wins on the other side of the country are not the same. But to me, the two that stand out, one is one that you mentioned, the Pittsburgh game. When they won that game, I said on the very next episode, that's the game that showed me that they're ready this year.
Right.
And then last week Baltimore.
Yeah.
They looked really good against Baltimore.
Right.
I'm going to pick them as well. I think they have absolutely everything in the world going for them. The Patriots are a little worse this year.
They are little worse.
But I've been saying also since the beginning of the season, this could just be another year where it's just no one talks about the Patriots being the team and then they're there in the Super Bowl again. But similar, I will echo what you said. This is their hardest road and probably the last 5 years to get there. They're not playing last year their schedule handed them at least a playoff berth or a Super Bowl berth, I think. They are not playing any of the teams they played last year. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're not going out there and playing the Titans or the Jaguars, or whatever. They are going to have to win a very tough game against the Chargers, and then next week they might be on the road in Kansas City, and I would say it would be equally as scary for them to have to stay home and play the Colts. So, if there's ever been a year where it's going to be tough, it's this year. And honestly, if they wouldn't have got that first round bye, they might have been out last week anyways.
Right.
So I'm going to also go with the Chargers. I completely agree with you on this one. And boy, there's no game this weekend I'm more excited to watch.
Yep, I absolutely am ready to watch this game. So this brings us to the Eagles against the Saints in New Orleans. New Orleans got everything they wanted. They got the home game. They got the bye. They look great. They're America's team again. You know what, though? The Eagles played a tough game against Chicago. The Eagles got Nick Foles still. He's banged up. They're still running with him. This was not as easy as a game for me to choose as what I thought it should be. If this was going to be the Bears and the Saints, I was going to take the Bears to win this game in New Orleans. But I feel like with Nick Foles, he threw 2 interceptions in that last game. I think the Saints just look better on both sides of the ball in general. I think because of Nick Foles, I think he'll play solid. I don't think he'll look bad in this game. And he's got great support. But I think the Saints this week are going to be too much for Philadelphia. I think they're going to be too much this week. That's not to say that I think the Saints are going to go to the Super Bowl this year, though. In fact, when the Saints win this game and then they face Dallas, maybe. I think if it goes Saints against Rams, the Saints are going to the Super Bowl. I think if it goes Saints against the Cowboys, I think the Cowboys steal it and they go to the Super Bowl. But I do think the Saints are going to beat the Eagles this week.
So, everyone knows that I am not a big Saints guy.
Right.
And everyone knows I've been real hot on this whole Nick Foles train. I've been really feeling the magic. Right. I've been saying it almost every day, every week.
And you haven't been wrong. You have not been wrong.
Spoiler alert, though. I'm also not stupid, and there's zero chance I'm going to take the Eagles in this game. I will be rooting for them aggressively.
Right.
I think the Saints are the best team in the NFC. I think no matter what, they will be in the Super Bowl. I think they have a great chance to win the Super Bowl. I will be taking them this week. I will not lie. I will be taking them next week.
All right.
Yeah. I think they're the third best defense left in the playoffs, but I also believe they are the best home team left in the playoffs. And the next 2 weeks are guaranteed at home. Right. That's the big thing. I don't like. To your point about the Cowboys, I picked the Cowboys the first time they beat them. They're not doing it twice. No, there's not a Sean Payton team that gets beat by the same team twice in a season, or a Drew Brees team that gets beat by the same team in the season.
Yeah, I think
true. I think they would rather play the Cowboys than play the Rams next week, because at least Sean McVay can come in there with some creative coaching scheme to shuffle it up a little bit.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah.
But I think they would be too well adjusted to let the Cowboys shut them down twice in a year. But I weirdly would be rooting for the Cowboys in that game.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever rooted for the Cowboys so much in my life. But
right, no, I know joke.
But man, I think they win this game. I think they win this game impressively. I think they're going to really stifle Nick Foles, who you even said is a little banged up. So I'm with you on the Saints win, but yeah, they're just too good, and it's this year going into the season, everyone said how good the NFC was. Like, wow, it's going to be tough to make the playoffs. The NFC is stacked. There's 4 teams in the AFC right now that can beat the Saints.
I would be okay with the Saints and the Chargers for the Super Bowl, but I would be heartily rooting for the Chargers to win that game.
What the storyline there, a little side back storyline there could be back in the day when the Chargers had Drew Brees and they got rid of him to draft Phillip Rivers.
Right.
I don't know. And they're both now, that was when Phillip would have been the young coming in rookie. Now they're both just a couple of old dudes.
Right.
Who are still awesome. One thing to be weary, though, of, depending on how the defense looks tomorrow, there's been a few games this year, if you look at Drew Brees' stats, where he didn't turn the ball over, but he didn't even generate 200 yards of passing offense. And if he goes out there and if Drew Brees cannot get the job done tomorrow, we could be in for a huge upset. I don't see that happening, but it has happened multiple times this season. But come on, it's the Saints in the Dome, so probably won't.
Right. Well, that's it, folks. The next game starts in a couple minutes here, so I think we want to get off and go watch that game. Everybody, Thank you for listening to the show. This has been one of my more favorite Saturday shows, I think maybe because of all the technology that worked for us. That is a wonderful thing. Thank you for everybody who has jumped ship and has started watching us on YouTube rather than Facebook. Make sure you find these shows on Spotify as well as the other time spent poorly programming. All on Spotify, all on iTunes, all on TSPN.fun. Keep an eye out or an ear out for Zach Swan's new show, which will be coming pretty soon here. We're all very excited about that. And enjoy your NFL weekend, as well as any basketball that you watch. Take care, everybody, and go Warriors.
Go Warriors.